Where them Catholics at? Yeah. Yo, where them Catholics at? Man, what's the matter with these bishops?
And welcome back to the Catholic Convert Show, everybody. It is a beautiful Monday here in Northwest South Carolina, just at the foothills of the beautiful Appalachian Mountains. And then over there, you've got good old Ed sitting there basking in the glory that is South Jersey. So.
Hey, you know, the Appalachian Mountains do touch northern New Jersey. Just so you know.
Hold on. Say the name of those mountains again.
The Appalachians.
No, absolutely not. That is not how they're pronounced. Look, you can call the region Appalachia.
Yeah.
Or you can call them the Appalachian Mountains. It's a hard CH. It is not a Appalachian. No. That's not what they're called.
It's the Appalooso Mountains.
Yeah, that is a dead giveaway that you were not from around this area. I know you're born and raised in Jersey.
Well, not that area, but this area.
Yeah,
it's the Appalachians.
Yeah, the Appalachian Mountains or Appalachian is also acceptable, but not Appalachian. No.
Hey,
it sounds like Andalusian. That's not how we do things.
We have a town on the water here. It's Forked River, and we say Forked River, not forked. Just so you know, we know how to pronounce things up here.
We've got a little town here called Forked Creek.
You see, there you go. But that's Forked Creek. It's not Forked Creek.
Yeah, neither is yours.
And we have Avon by the Sea instead of Avon by the Sea. And we've got a whole bunch of those wild ones up here.
All right. Well, it is my recommendation that until we can figure out just what the hell is going on, we're going to shut down Jersey and try to get to the bottom of this, because that is completely unacceptable.
Is it? We have Newark, New Jersey, but they have Newark, Delaware. Spelled the same way.
I'll say that Newark is correct.
Woohoo! One for our side.
Yeah, you got one. You said the other one's in Delaware?
Yeah, Newark, Delaware.
Oh, they're weird in Delaware. It's like I barely remember that Delaware exists until someone's because here's the thing. I've never met someone from Delaware ever.
You know, I don't think I have, and I border that state. That's kind of wild.
I've never met a single person that says, "Oh, I'm from Delaware." I know one guy from Vermont, so I know that's a real place. I know like 3 people in Maine, 2 in New Hampshire. Obviously, I know a lot of people in Massachusetts, but I've never met a single person. Oh, and I got a buddy from Rhode Island, but I've never met a single person from Delaware. So I'm not entirely convinced that it exists.
It is, it is the Diamond State. I don't know if you're aware of that.
No, because I'm barely aware of the existence of Delaware as it is. So of course I'm not going to know the little nicknames or colloquies that are associated with the name of the state.
And what is the nickname of New Jersey?
The Garden State.
Very good. Excellent.
I know that because I've seen license plates on this at various episodes of The Sopranos.
Oh, right. It is on there.
Yeah. And, we're the Palmetto State.
Yeah, I like that. That's pretty cool. I love palmettos. Or as we say in New Jersey, palmettos.
Okay. The palmetto tree is super famous here in South Carolina because it was during one of the Revolutionary War battles that the cannonballs were striking the palmetto trees, but because they're very flexible, they weren't exploding on impact and showering timber shards all over the regimental troops, they were kind of absorbing the blast because, I mean, yeah, they're hard to like the human touch, but impact like that, they're actually very spongy.
Mm-hmm.
So it was our landscape that gave us the advantage.
See that?
Over those filthy lobsterback redcoat British.
And a very interesting side note, the windmill palm, which looks surprisingly very much like the palmetto palm, can be grown here in New Jersey. I've had them in the past. It's pretty cool. People come to New Jersey, they don't expect to see palm trees, but we've got them. Mostly on the coast, but even here inland a few miles, we got them.
Yeah. You know, I live 3 hours from the coast. Like I'm in a straight line down Interstate 26. I'm 3 hours from Charleston.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to. I think it's the third oldest city in the U.S. So it's got a ton amount of history. Some of the streets downtown are still the original cobblestones of, like, I guess you could call it American antiquity, because we don't really go back that far, of when the town of Charlestown was established. So you're like, okay, this is kind of neat. Tons of history there. But unfortunately, right now, we are directly in the path of good old Hurricane Deborah, or as it's better known as Debby. But this week is looking to be interesting. We may not have any other shows if this thing gets bad, because even though I'm 3 hours away, the storm is about the same size as the state plus change.
Yeah.
So if it gets gnarly, I'll be doing this show by candlelight. Yeah, just like the Pilgrims did. Just like the Pilgrims did.
When the Pilgrims did their podcast.
Yeah, when the Pilgrims did their podcast, they actually had to watch TV by candlelight too.
Did they? On those poor bastards.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it was
tough.
It was a wild time. So they had it rough.
It was tough. Charleston is on my bucket list. I will tell you that.
You've never been?
I've never been, but ever since I've been aware of its existence, it has been on my list. And I have so many friends and relatives that have been there and said, you got to get there. And it's just seeing it on TV and in photos and stuff, it just looks stunning.
I'll tell you one reason, if you had no other reason at all to go to Charleston. It's because Charleston is the one and only place in the U.S. where you are most likely to accidentally bump into Bill Murray.
Oh, that'd be cool. Wait a minute. I bumped into Bill Murray, though.
Yeah. But I'm saying Charleston is the place of the most likelihood, because he's always there. I believe he has a property there, and he's just randomly going into breakfast spots, and he's so gracious that, if people come up to him like, I really don't want to bother you, he's like, no, sit down. And he'll talk to you. He's so gracious, so nice. Definitely one of the best actors that you could probably ever find, even though he always plays Bill Murray in everything that he's in.
And that's who he is. Yeah, that's who he is in real life. I mean, he's not acting, I bumped into him several years ago. I was at Monmouth Park, which is, everyone's familiar with the Triple Crown, but the next most important race in thoroughbred is the Jersey Derby, believe it or not. And so I go there every year for that. And I'm right up against the rail for a race. And there's this very tall person standing next to me. And he just started chatting me up. And I said, this guy's got a familiar voice. And I look over and I'm thinking, this is Bill Murray talking to me. And I had no idea. The guy's like 6'4" or something like that. He's huge.
Yeah, he's a very tall guy.
I never knew that. But we talked for 20 minutes. I'm thinking this is crazy. And it looked like no one else realized who he was. But it was definitely him.
Yeah. He made an appearance. One of my favorite stories about him is he made an appearance at some random college frat party in Charleston. I think it was at Coastal Carolina University, which is this huge party school.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
I knew it. I knew about Coastal Carolina when I was in high school because everybody's like, "Oh, where are you going to college?" And people would answer Coastal Carolina, and I'm like, "Oh, so you're getting pregnant? Got it." That was that was my first reaction. Nobody said, "Hey, I'm going to MIT," and that was, "Oh, cool, you're going to be rich." My next, the next thing was, "Oh, I'm going to Coastal." Ah, so you're starting a family. Got it. But no, he kind of just wandered into a college frat party and took pictures and was like, I don't know, I think playing beer pong with some of the students down there, and then just disappeared into the night like a lone drifter. It was kind of cool.
That's a great memory. I would for those guys if they remember it after a frat party. And you gotta love. I mean, they're the Chanticleers. What a cool nickname, Coastal Carolina Chanticleers.
Cool nickname. Very cool nickname. Of course, no one knows what a Chanticleer is.
Oh, but you know what? First person to jot down in the notes there underneath this what a Chanticleer is will win a fabulous prize of my choosing.
Of your choosing, okay? Because I'm like, you just sprang this out of nowhere. I'm looking around my desk. I'm like, I'm not giving anybody anything. Like, I'm glad you're the one volunteering this. I'm like,
they will receive this bumper sticker.
Like, I got a stick of deodorant up here. Yeah, it's lightly used, great condition.
Yeah,
you could do that.
There you go.
I spent the majority of this weekend avoiding social media, just because the past several weeks in a row have been non-stop going, because whether I'm traveling back and forth to my parish, we're fixing and installing new pews and new kneelers and all this other. Didn't have to do that on Saturday because the only thing that we're waiting on is like 40 more kneelers to show up. So Sunday was pretty awesome. We all got to kneel on the cold stone floor and give everybody else who was like snealing, where you slide to the end of the pew. I learned that term yesterday, and I'm never getting rid of it now. But the people, you get to side eye the people who were snealing, right?
That's cheating.
Yeah, but no, we spent Saturday barely leaving the house, which was pretty awesome. I got on a Zoom call. I spent probably an hour and 10 minutes planning out an entire year's worth of outings and events for my men's ministry that I co-founded at the parish.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, this is great. But this morning, my work requires me to hop online, check out social media. And I'm not saying I never looked at social media this entire weekend, but I spent the majority of time away from my phone. And so this morning I get up and I look, and the world's on fire. Everything's burning down. Stock market is crashing. People are jumping from the windows in New York because they haven't caught up to the anti-suicide nets like they have in China. Everything's losing. Everybody's losing their minds on it. And I came to this realization. Almost every single time I open any social media network, I spend the majority of the time scrolling through it, sighing heavily. Like, here we go again. Now, I get it. Social media is a tool. If you don't use it, it's going to use you. And I've always ran all of my social profiles that way, whether it's to market my businesses, my products, myself, whatever it is, because it's a means of income for me. Well, I don't earn any money from my social media presences. Now all of my income is completely, I won't say offline, because that's where I interact with most of my clients is online, but we're using like ClickUp. We're not using social media. And I don't search for clients. Clients are given to me by my publisher. So I'm like, I don't really enjoy social media anymore.
Mm.
And like, what is the point of doing it? And yeah, you can curate your content. Yeah, you can say, this is exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do this. And, for the most part, I use my social media to spread the faith through creative means. Creative means not like, hey, I'm coming up with a unique idea to do it. I mean, as a content creator, which I don't even like that word, right? But we've got this show. I've got my blog. I've got my the posts and articles and everything that I'll put out on social media. And I've had so many people message me and thank me for helping them come around to the Catholic Church, or ask me questions of, hey, I'm not sure about this, but I've got a friend who is interested in converting, and I don't know how to answer the question, so they come to me. And I'm not even a theologian. I can barely spell theologian, but I realize that social media for me is just one extra platform in which I can fulfill my obligation, because it is an obligation, of evangelizing. I'm required to go out and make disciples of all nations. And so that's what I try to do. And that's between that and the friends that I've made on social media over the years are the only reasons I'm not deleting all of my profiles and just being a real world life enjoyer full time. Right. Because it does get disheartening. But then that led me to think about the apostles. And I'm not comparing myself to the apostles at all, other than the fact that all of them were massive screw ups, which makes the story of salvation so much more real. And it makes it more believable too. When Christ chose the apostles, he didn't choose like temple elite. He didn't choose the wealthiest and the most successful and the most well-known people. He got a group of uneducated, arrogant screw-ups, which is pretty awesome. I mean, look, you've got a pair of siblings who are always bickering about who gets to sit on the left side or the right side of Christ. You've got the tax collector. You've got the people who sit there and profess how zealous they are for the love of their Lord, but they can't even bring themselves to stay awake when he says, come and pray with me. And then, of course, there's Peter. Good old Peter. He tries to talk Christ out of sacrificing himself and making the necessary sacrifice for the salvation of the world, so much that Christ calls him Satan. Get behind me, Satan. He loses his temper because he's a hothead, right? Peter is very much a hothead. Loses his temper, cuts a dude's ear off when they come to arrest him after Christ had already told him, no, this has to happen one time. Because, of course, he thinks he knows better. And then, oh, Lord, I would never, ever deny you, ever. And then he does it 3 times in a row. And then later, he still becomes, prior to all this, he's still told that he's going to be the rock on which the foundation of the church is built, which is why he was given the name Cephas. It means rock.
Yeah.
And then it's still just prior to his martyrdom, he's like, I thought rock meant like safe place. I thought rock meant something I can cling to, and I don't have to be so afraid of, really anything. I've got this rock. It's immovable. I'm good. But oh no, I'm going to be martyred. So he tries to flee And then, of course, Christ appears to him. And this, for people who have no idea what I'm talking about, it is the Quo Vadis apparition of Christ, where Christ appeared outside the gates or just inside the gates of Rome, or the gates leading into Rome. And Peter was on his way out the door, and he just happened to see Christ walking. He's like, "Yo, where you going, Lord?" Quo Vadis. He goes, "Well, I'm on my way into Rome to be crucified again." And Peter realized, you know what? I just keep screwing up, but man's got a point. I should turn around, go back. And that's exactly what he did. He turned around, went back, and stopped hiding, and was eventually martyred brutally, upside down. And I liken the human nature of all of the apostles, and especially Peter, who's easily the biggest screw up in the entire New Testament. I mean, he's absolutely the biggest screw up as far as how many times in a row he just keeps getting it wrong. But time and time again, Christ goes, "No, you're wrong. Come here, dummy. It's okay. Let's start over." And that's what he does for us. We screw up all the time, every single day. I find myself at the end of the day, when I'm trying to do a reflection of my conscience, going, could you screw up any worse than you did today? Of all the claims and promises that you make when you go to confession and you give the perfect act of contrition and you give your penance and all this other, and you make these promises to yourself and these dedications to yourself that you're just not going to do any of those things again. And then you do them probably within 48 hours of walking out of the confessional, which is a good reason to go on Saturday nights so that you can still receive communion on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing for me when I look at social media and I see like rage bait or people trying to be argumentative. And it's so hard not to look at all of them and go, man, you guys are just dumb, and I do not have the time for you. Patience is not one of my many virtues. When I say many, I mean like 3.
Well, it's more than 2, so I guess it qualifies as many.
It's more than 2, so it many, few, yeah, few works.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm always looking at when I'm on social media for any reason whatsoever is, man, I don't have time for any of this. Life is so much better when you put the phone down. Life's so much better when you turn the laptop off. Why am I still doing it? Because you're obligated to, and it's hard, and you're complaining about the things that you have to do when you have an opportunity to evangelize people and bring people closer to Christ. And this is me telling myself this, arguing with it. And then I get mad at myself because I know I'm right, but I wish I was wrong. It's very breaking the fourth wall, arguing with myself in my head.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. I screw up every single day. Peter, the first pope, the base stone of the foundation of the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church, biggest screw up in all of the New Testament. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing that I keep coming back to whenever I'm like, I'm probably not getting into heaven because I screw up so much. And I'm laid on myself with that Catholic guilt that we reference so much on this show. But then after all of it, I find myself arguing with myself again, lying there in bed, trying to sleep. You're dumb for thinking that, right? Shut up, I'm trying to sleep. And it's this constant back and forth. So the question that I asked on the thumbnail for this show, how many times can you screw up? The answer is all of them, as many as you possibly can. That's how many times you can screw up, and Christ is going to be like, it's okay. You're trying. Try a little harder. And then you try harder and you screw up again. He says, okay, it's all right. I forgive you. You're trying. And it's so opposite of what we're so used to with humans. How many times can you screw up with your spouse before she wants a divorce? How many times can you screw up with your kids before they need therapy and they never come to visit you in the nursing home? How many times can you screw up at your job before they fire you? How many traffic tickets can you get before they take your license? You've got a very finite number. It's not the case with Christ. And it really is. That simple fact is the only reason that I've got some gray and not completely gray, where I beat myself up. Yeah. And we don't even know what's under the hat.
We have no idea.
We have no idea what's under the hat. Probably another bumper sticker.
Probably.
But that's the only thing that makes me just go, it's okay. So when I look out, I'm going, oh, well, really glad I took all my money out of my 401k, but all these poor jokers that are getting eaten today because of the stock market issues. I can only imagine how stressful it is for them, because I've been in positions where like financials are the weakest they could have possibly been, and you get hit with something else. It's like, come on, can I catch a break? But the only thing that gives me solace and that gives me peace to where I could just sit there and say, it's all going to be okay because we win in the end, is just knowing that no matter how many times I screw up, no matter how many times things get bad, Christ is there and he's like, it's okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
But you run. I mean, but there are some caveats to that, if you will, because
no, there are not, because what I say is gospel.
Well, okay, but not from Christ's side, but from our side, because we and some I've run into people who kind of have this concept of it where they figure, well, since I can screw up repeatedly and Christ will forgive me, I'm just going to keep screwing up until I'm 70 or 80 or 90. And then
the difference there is it's not screwing up. Screwing up is accidental. It's not screwing up if you just chose to do it.
Well, that's the thing. And that's what I try to explain to them. Christ is a little smarter than that. And he can figure out your little game plan, a little easier than that.
Yeah, I'm not saying any of this like, going and receiving the sacrament of penance is a get out of hell free card. It's not.
But then there's another danger attached to that too. So let's say that you even have this concept that at some point you're going to straighten out and fly right, and your request for forgiveness is actually going to be sincere. Well, what happens if along that path you die before you hit that moment? Because a lot of people die very unexpectedly. You get hit by a bus, you have a heart attack, whatever. So
what are the odds of what are the odds of a priest passing by to grant
exactly right? And that's why it's better to live as, and I believe it was Saint Augustine who said, treat your body like you're going to live forever, but treat your soul like you're going to die tomorrow.
That was Teddy Roosevelt. That was not Augustine.
That was Teddy Roosevelt. I knew it was one of those two guys.
It was right after he got shot giving a speech.
That poor little Rough Rider. But isn't that the case? You really need to treat your soul as though you're going to die tomorrow. And
that's what I'm talking about. Because when you treat your soul like you could die tomorrow, and if you screw it up today, best case scenario, you end up in purgatory. Right?
Yeah.
Unless you die walking out of the confessional.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for. right? I'm hoping to get hit by a bus
Walk out of confession.
as soon as I walk out of the confession booth. Before I even make it to the parking lot, still inside the church, I want to get hit by a bus right then. But no, that's what I'm talking about. You treat your soul like you're going to die tomorrow, and you try so hard to live as Christ commands that you live.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy to get down on yourself and just frustrated and pissed off and aggravated to where you want to just throw the papers up in the air. Screw this. What's the point? I keep screwing up while you're actively trying to avoid the near occasion of sin, while you're actively trying to flee from the things that tempt you to sin, while you're actively trying to remain in that state of grace, because it's an impossibility to remain in a state of grace.
Sure.
If you still have a pulse, right? It's impossible. And that's what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the frustration you feel because you screwed up again. I got to go right back to confession. I confessed this morning, but then that jerk face cut me off on the interstate. I might as well turn around and be like, I'm back, Father. You know,
Yeah.
And you get so frustrated with how easy it is for you to slip and you beat yourself up. But Christ isn't beating you up. Christ is way more forgiving of us, as in infinitely, than we even are of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the one thing that gets me out of the, okay, there's some cartoon where like this animated animal just beats his face into the, it's Shrek, where the little gingerbread man is beating his face on a wooden table or something. He's like, stupid. Yeah. You feel like that. And then you're like, oh yeah. You still feel like crap because you screwed up.
Sure.
You still feel like crap because you can't seem to get this negative attitude out of your head towards people that just make your eyes roll so hard they produce sound.
Yeah.
But then it's remembering Christ knows exactly how many times I'm going to continue to screw up, even though I'm not actively trying to screw up. And he's going to forgive me. Yeah. I can try again. I can pick myself up and try again. Yeah, that's exactly how Aaliyah sounds. But that's what I'm referring to. I'm not talking about these guys who were like, well, I'm only 25. I've got time. Yeah, you don't know that. That's not what I'm referring to.
No, I know. But we do have to, and there are some people who are more sincere about it and yet still fall into the same sin or the same vice over and over and over again. And even so, in that case, I think you may sincerely wish that you weren't committing that same sin. But then are you really making the best effort possible to avoid that sin again? That's sometimes an issue that people deal with, is that I really wish I didn't go out drinking every Friday night and get stupid, or something of that nature. But then the next Friday night, you find yourself doing it again. So are you doing everything in your power to keep yourself out of that situation where you're going to be tempted to do that? And maybe Monday through Thursday, you're even saying to yourself, I'm not going to go out Friday night. I'm not going to go out Friday night. And then Friday night, you get the call from your buddy. Hey, I'm going to pick you up. I'm on one way to the pub. And you're like, what the hell? So you were sincere in your thought that, yes, I should stop this at some point, but you were weak in your attempt to avoid doing it again. So I think you have to worry and concern yourself with that kind of thing as well. You really have to really put the effort in, and it's going to be painful. When we've all given up vices, every single one. Some people either given up smoking or drinking or porn or or food or whatever it is. Everyone's got their vices that they have given up. And everyone knows how difficult it was to do. If it was easy, they wouldn't have been in a vice in the first place, you know. But I think that you need to show Christ that you are very sincere in your desire to stop that behavior. That's the thing. And I think, you know, and Peter would be a good example of that. I mean, he would screw up, but then I think there's evidence enough that he was remorseful in each case, and he desperately tried not to screw up in the same manner. He used to find new ways to screw up.
Yeah, that's the important thing. He found new ways to
screw up.
There's nothing written, as far as I know, that he made the same mistake more than once in a row, except for the denying Christ when he was being arrested, and not being arrested, but when he was being in the process of his passion, right?
Yeah.
He denied him 3 times back to back to back.
Yeah.
But yeah, find new ways to listen. So listen, I want to clarify this. So what you're saying is, if I'm going to sin, I need to try to find new ways to sin, not keep repeating the new ones over and over, the old ones over and over again. I need to broaden my sin portfolio.
Yes. Write that down. That's today's lesson in Ed Jacko's theology. Follow that and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Just keep finding new ways, and then if you don't do them, you cover the gamut, and then there's none left. You're good.
At least in that case, you're going to have an interesting conversation with Christ at some point. He's going to say, "Man, I never saw someone find so many ways to screw up. I gotta hand it to you."
He's like, he's going to turn around and be like, "Hey, Peter,
you got to
this one was one of yours, right? Yeah, you thought, hey, I found another one."
Yeah, just as they're patting you on the back and everything, and you think, "Oh, I'm going to walk right into heaven," or say, "Well, no, you're not. I mean, we're impressed, but no, you're not coming in here."
No. We are impressed, and Peter's going to be like, I get it, but we'll see. We'll see how many masses get said for you.
Yeah,
but you're not coming in right now.
For a while.
Yeah,
step to the right, son.
Right, but no, that is a very important distinction you made. Like, okay, you are very sincere, full-heartedly sincere in your act of contrition. But then you don't take the extra steps to not fall into the same sin again and again and again. Yeah. Right? It's like, okay, like you said, use the example of smoking. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm going to quit smoking. But then you've still got like 6 cartons of cigarettes sitting on top of your fridge. Okay, we'll throw them away. Well, they're just there. I want to test my willpower. No, you don't. Go throw them away.
You want them there.
You want them there just in case. Yeah, you want them there for when you relapse, and you don't have to make a 3 a.m. run to the 7-Eleven.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, that's right. Why when I need to, you know, when it's summer's coming up and I need to drop 6 pounds or whatever. You know, I go to the cabinet and whatever Oreos are still in there, they go in the garbage. I don't say to myself, they'll be fine till September, you know, because they won't make it till September. I know that.
They don't expire anyway, right? With all the
expire, but if they're in the cabinet, they're going to get eaten. So that's the problem.
Yeah. You know, it was very much the same for me in that regard when I was dropping weight for a fight. And the only reason I dropped weight for a fight is because I got very heavy when I was going to the gym 6 times a week. You know, I had my Aquaman build and I was around 165, which I looked like a tank. Problem was I'm still only 5'6". And so 5'6", 165 getting into a boxing ring, my opponent is like 6'13" with arms longer than my body, except he looks like Gumby and he's my weight. So there's no way I'm going to be able to get inside his reach without taking a beating. So I had to drop weight classes because the weight classes in boxing are very simple. You know, you've got your Mexican Filipino weight class. Okay.
AKA the jockey weight class.
Right. These are your light welters. And then you have your psychotic Irishmen, which is usually your welters.
Yeah.
And then anything after that is just big Debo looking black dude who's going to beat the crap out of you.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everything after that, at least
Yeah.
from my perspective, being 5'6". So I was like, okay, I'm not fighting the big Debo black dudes. The Irish psychopaths are still 15 inches taller than me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go fight the little fast Filipino Mexican guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. I had to drop all the way down from 165 to like,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 138.
Holy smokes.
Which I looked terrible, right?
Nice.
I looked terrible.
Yeah.
I lost so much muscle mass, but I could fight and I still retained a lot of the strength that I had. So I got to hit where it counted. And that was kind of my strategy. It was like, okay, just be Mickey Ward, take a beating from these guys who were much faster than you, and then just land the hurt bombs on them. And it worked out. But I had to do the same thing. I had to, okay, I can't starve my family. I can't starve my wife and children. They want to eat normal food. I can't be like, sorry, kale and depression salads for everyone. Couldn't do that. Couldn't do that. So I had to do the same thing. Was just like, okay, I'm gonna put a child lock on all of the cabinets where y'all put y'all's food, and there's a little combo. Don't tell me the combo. My food is in this cabinet over here.
Yeah.
And that's where I had to keep it. And then I'm too lazy to cook. So anything that was in the fridge was like either something that I already pre-cooked for myself, like meal prepping, or something that my wife was going to make that required effort. And I wasn't going to put that in. So
Well,
it was the same thing. But the point is I made, I put in some extra safeguards against not making my weight. And I don't think enough people realize that. And I think it's something we subconsciously think we think about, but actively thinking about it as far as trying to refrain from recommitting the same damn sin every single time. So to the point where the priest recognizes your voice and he's like, again? Come on, fix this. It's a good point.
Yeah, you've got to put in the effort. You've got to, if you're trying to give up beer, having a fridge full of beer is probably not the best way to go. If you're trying to give up Oreos, having a stockpile of Oreos under the bed is probably not the best way to go. You've got to give yourself some advantage. We're human beings. I think our number one trait is that we are weak, weak-minded, basically. And so you're going to give
people
in.
Don't realize that your willpower is actually limited.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have an infinite amount of willpower.
Yeah. And even like, yeah, I've been
empty. You do end up with empty hole syndrome, where you got rid of a thing, but now it's just that empty hole. You have to fill it with something.
Exactly, you got to fill it with something. Exactly, yeah. And then and I've been in situations like this where whatever it is that I'm giving up, just for to use that as an example, and I don't throw it out or get rid of it or whatever because I'm like, I've got willpower. I'm going to be okay with it. So it's there. And I could go a day, a week, maybe a month or whatever. And I'm like, this is cake. This is easy. But then something happens in life and you go through a stressful situation. There's an illness. There's a death in the family. You lose your job. Your car breaks down. And then another thing happens. And you're under so much stress because those Twinkies are still in the cabinet or whatever, you're going to hit them. So that's why I say that you've got to make the effort and get rid of whatever it is that's going to be your temptation. Don't just say, well, I've got willpower. I'm going to be fine. And the first week was easy. The first month was easy. So I assume it's always going to be easy. It's not going to always be easy. You're going to find yourself in a position where there's going to be something that causes you to fall backwards. And listen, and obviously Satan's involved in that. He doesn't want to see you achieve. He doesn't want to see you give up whatever you're trying to give up. And so when does he attack you? When he thinks he's losing grip of you, when he sees you doing good, when he sees you're doing well with whatever you're trying to vice you're giving up. That's when he's like, okay, I gotta crank it up a little bit. I gotta turn the heat up on this guy. And that's when things go south. So you've got to be vigilant, constantly vigilant with that stuff.
Yeah. You talked about that last week, and it did make me realize that all these saints that had these, that are just some of the most profoundly holy people that walked the earth, are the ones that battled the hardest with temptation.
Mm-hmm.
Because Satan doesn't tempt those that he's got a hold of.
No.
He goes after the ones that are going to be the biggest victory.
Yeah.
If you, let's say Padre Pio is a good example. There's the account of where, it's Padre freaking Pio. Okay. And then he rolls over in the middle of the night. He rolls over in the middle of the night and he comes face to face with Satan.
Yeah.
Trying to tempt him. And he goes, "Oh, I thought you were somebody important," and just rolls back over and goes to sleep. I love that story. Whether
That's
or not,
gangster.
look, it is pretty gangster. We talked about this too. Whether or not I actually believe all of that happened, or he was just dreaming. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's still an awesome story and it makes a valid point.
Mm-hmm.
The harder you're tempted is generally a case that you're on the right track.
Yeah.
You're living as close to the way you should be as you can at that moment. And when that temptation gets harder and harder and harder, it's because you're actually on the right track. Mm-hmm. It's because you're living the way, in a sense, that you as a Catholic man or woman should be. And that's why the temptation is so strong, because it's a bigger victory to pull down someone from the straight and narrow path to heaven for Satan than it is to be like, hey, this guy's already dancing on the sidewalk half naked. I don't need to tempt him. He's doing it on his own. This person over here is going to require some effort, but it's a big win if I get him.
Yeah. And it's not even that it's always easy to tell who is not being tempted because Satan already has them, or at least has them in his sights. Because, and I've had conversations with people about this kind of thing where someone will say to me, "Oh man, God's cool with me because look, I've got a great car, I've got a great house, I go on 3 vacations a year, I got tons of money in the bank, I haven't been sick in 30 years, I've got all this, my life is about as good as it can be, and I haven't said a prayer or gone to church in 40 years. So obviously God's good with me." And I'm thinking, dude, that's not the message you should be getting out of that. There's a reason. If everything is that wonderful and nothing bad happens to you, it's wonderful, but it might be because Satan knows he's got you. He doesn't have to destroy your life. He doesn't have to bring you down. He doesn't have to get you down on your knees. He's put you to the side. He doesn't have to worry about you. You've given up on God. You've taken him out of your life. And Satan knows that. And he's like, I'm moving on to that priest or that sister or that widow who's in church every stinking morning praying that damn rosary. I can't get her to stop doing that. That's who I need to attack. Because the guy will say to me, well, look, there's that guy in church. There's a guy I know that I see in church every Sunday. I pray for this gentleman every Sunday morning, because this is a man whose health has been just horrendous for years. And every Sunday I wait to see, because I know he's going to look so much worse than he did the previous Sunday. And I kneel down and I pray for him. I say, Jesus, he's been through enough. Just heal this guy. And every Sunday I just look, here's another bandage from another surgery. Here's another, there's more and more going on with this guy. And yet he's there every Sunday. He's giving thanks. He receives the Lord in the Eucharist. He's there on Saturday night for confession. Satan figured, if I throw enough crap in this guy's life, he'll give up. But he doesn't. He fights all the harder. And that guy is an inspiration to me. But so someone on the outside would say, look, that guy goes to church all the time. He does everything right. And look at what happened to him.
Look how miserable his life is.
Look how miserable his life is. And I said, well, this life. He's not worried about this life. He's not focused on this life. He's worried about the next. And he's offering his suffering now so that his eternal life is going to be glorious. You need to take a lesson from that guy. Don't pity him. Don't make fun of him. Don't use him as an example of what not to do. No, learn from him. And that's what I try to get. So, I look at my mother. I've talked about my mother so many times here. You could not find a more faithful, devoted woman in the world. And yet she suffered tremendously throughout her life with so many health issues. Never cursed God for it. Never was miserable about it. Always smiling, always happy, always grateful for the moments that she had in life that were good and were wonderful and were pain-free. And so that's the thing. My mom wasn't being punished because she was a bad person. No, she was being given an opportunity to join her suffering with Christ and thereby preserving her place in heaven alongside Christ for eternity. And that's what we need to do. So this whole concept of if you've got a great life, it's because God's cool with you and everything's fine. Keep it going. That's ridiculous. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Whenever I try to feel bad for myself, I've got a pretty damn good life, right? I've got my wife, I've got my kids, I've got my, a career that I really enjoy doing. But then the guy cuts me off on the street, or there's yet another person who does not know how to stand in the middle of the grocery aisle, blocking my path to go and pick up the can of soup or whatever my wife sent me there for. And I get frustrated and I lose it.
Yeah.
The thing that comes to me most of the time is I failed once again to not let the little crap bother me. Yeah. Because I get so in the zone. I'm a very time efficient person, right? To the point where my wife will tell me I'm almost autistic. If I'm leaving the house to go to church,
yeah,
and I'm sitting there in the driveway, and I'm like, okay, I've got all the kids in the car except for one who's standing beside the gate to close it once my wife comes through it, and then he's going to hop in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the clock going, if we're on the road by 9:15 a.m., we're there by 9:48 a.m. And then that gives me just enough time to get my exact pew in my exact spot where I am every single Sunday.
Yeah.
And then my wife walks out of the house at 9:17. Well, that means I need to drive 6 miles an hour faster than I normally do to arrive at the same amount of time. Like I said, I'm very efficient time wise, and I hate using my brakes. So I love it when I love it when I hit those when I hit all those lights that are just turning green or turning yellow, and I get to scoot on through, and I never have to slow down. I get on that perfect little, I made all the lights today. But then it's stupid little things that frustrate me or put a wrench in my scheduling.
Yeah.
That I'm like, crap. And I start feeling bad about it. Like I'm screwing up like this, like a 5-year-old frustrated at myself over something so ridiculously stupid, like a toddler not getting the color cup he wanted.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I could be struggling with so many harder things. Why don't I take these things that I do struggle with? Like just, I'm a hothead. It is what it is. It's that Scottish, Gaul, French, Norman, English bloodline, and then the Saxons began to hate kind of bloodline that I've got going on. I'm a hothead. but I can control it. I could, I don't lose my temper and beat up walls or anything like that. And my name's not Kyle, and I don't have a Mountain Dew stash. But I think of all of the things that I get so frustrated with, and I'm like, I could be suffering so much more.
Yeah.
I could be struggling so much more. Why don't I just start being grateful for the things that I struggle with and be happy and thankful that this is the limit of my frustrations and struggles? Like when I see stupid people online.
Yeah.
That makes me want to delete my social media account because I'm tired of looking at the low IQ stuff.
I hear you.
And that's what it comes to, man. But no, you make such a great point of putting in the effort to avoid those things. And I haven't quite figured out how to put in the effort of not being frustrated with people that I think are dumb.
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
It's not like there's a shortage of opportunities for me to try, though.
Exactly.
I'm just, it's like I got the game genie. I've got the cheat code for unlimited tries.
Exactly.
Right. But,
oh boy.
Yeah, man. I love how much we can screw up, and as long as we're actually putting in the effort and being sincere.
Yep, that's what he's looking for.
Rectifying that.
Yeah.
We've got a pretty solid chance of a very glorious eternity with Christ.
Absolutely.
So parents who are losing their temper with their kids and they're frustrated because you said what 500 times after they called your name and they still didn't tell you what they wanted. Or, oh, I'm so glad these little jerks are gone and school's starting again. Should I feel that way about my children? Look, you've got unlimited opportunities. As long as you're diligently striving to not repeat the same sins over and over and over, it's okay if you fall not on purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. And not falling thinking you've got that get out of hell jail free card through confession.
Yeah. You need to fix it ASAP.
Yeah.
But you didn't fall on purpose. You're not actively trying to just game the system.
No. Yeah, the vast majority of people are certainly not. They're just
absolutely
human.
There might be three people in all of the earth that are trying to game the system. I saw those stats somewhere.
3 to
this
5.
morning.
It's in there. Yeah,
3 to 5. Okay. Yeah. I didn't do well in statistics.
No.
It's okay though. But no. I do have a quick announcement here. Before we wrap up. I didn't even bother getting to what's coming out of Ed's basement because I don't know if you've heard of him, Ed, but his name is John Kramer. He's the Lego church builder guy. You heard of him?
I've seen some of his stuff.
Okay. Well, he and I talking in the DMs earlier, bringing him on the show as a guest fairly soon. Beautiful. So that's the only announcement.
Is he going to give us a tour?
I hope we get a tour if he's got like one of those snake cams.
Yeah. That'd be so cool.
I will say, like, I've never wanted to buy Legos for myself as much in my life. And when I saw him, like, man, you know how cool it would be to do that? It's very cool. Awesome. The attention to detail he puts in there. Seems like a really cool dude. I saw the little interview that he did with Father Ed Looney. He posted the video, I think, this morning.
Yeah.
Very cool. But yeah, gonna bring him on the show. But we are coming up on the last 55 seconds of the show.
We are.
But I like starting Mondays off with discussions like this because
it's a good one.
It's Monday. It's a good discussion.
Gotta ease into
things that right, but it's also something that real Catholics have to think about and deal with. And it's not rage bait because the Pope said or didn't say this, or because this person said or didn't say this in whatever political sphere they're in.
Yeah.
Right. It's just normal stuff.
Absolutely.
But as always, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye. So thank you for watching, listening, subscribing, and sharing this pro-Catholic content with your anti-Catholic friends.
God bless everybody.